Hello, cyberspace. It's me, Angie, and I welcome both you and your ears to an episode of Life, Love, Music, and Space Travel. In case you're wondering who Angie is, I'm Angie, and I'm super stoked to spend some time sharing with y'all some of my experiences and thoughts on living, loving, music, and space travel, or spiritual experiences as I often refer to as space travel. A rather broad spectrum, right? Well, my hope is to always share something that resonates with, intrigues, excites, or perhaps inspires you. On that note, I invite you to sit back, buckle up, and take a little trip out into the cosmos with me.
Hello, cyberspace. It's me, Angie, coming to you with episode number 70 of my podcast, Life, Love, Music, and Space Travel. I've titled this episode, New York, New York, 5 Days in the City That Never Sleeps. I've recently took a trip to the Big Apple, the Empire City, Gotham City, and it was fucking fantastic. This episode is going to be filled with a little bit of everything, life, love, music, and space travel. It's going to have a little bit of a tourism feel to it, but make no mistake, it was filled with so much growth, so many experiences for liberation and empowerment, and I want to share it with all of you. So buckle up and get ready to take a trip to the big city. I left on September 18th, and the reason that I went to the city initially was that months ago, I bought tickets to see Eric Clapton at Madison Square Garden. The day they went on sale is the day I got the tickets. I got the best seats that I could. I did not want to be any further away from slow hand than I could afford. So I got some great tickets, and I decided I was going to go to New York. I haven't been in probably 15 years. I've been talking to my mom about it. The last trip we took together was about 15 years ago. I am from upstate New York, born on Long Island. Dad was born in the city, I believe. Mom might have been born in the city. And we have definitely spent time in the city. Actually, my 6th grade school trip, class trip, was to New York City many, many moons ago. I do recall the bus going down 42nd Street. Things were very different. We went to the Empire State Building, went to the Statue of Liberty, and I think at that time, my vague recollection was that we could get to the Crown. Can't do that anymore. It has been quite a while, and I've kind of been longing for a return to the city that never sleeps. So, buying these Clapton tickets was my for sure deal that I was going to go. I bought 2 tickets. Wasn't really sure who I was going to take, but I knew that either way I was going to go on my own. As mentioned, I'm kind of going to give you my tips for anyone else out there who might be interested in going to New York, who's inspired about traveling. I'm going to throw in as much information as I can about my travel experiences because I think I've kind of gotten pretty good at it, within reason. I'm still a work in progress. I flew American. I generally fly American. I have accumulated a fair amount of miles. And when I fly, I usually try and get in as early as I can to maximize my full day. And I try and leave as late as I can within reason. Got into the city at like 8:30. And I have been also expanding my my travel nerves. I try and take public transportation. For a while, I was really using Lyft. Lyft was really good to me. It got me where I needed to get to and get from. But I've been learning to take the bus and explore the local options. Very cost efficient. Can be a little confusing because the buses and figuring out the system and the e-bus and the train and all that stuff. But I did it. I took the bus. That took me to the train, which I really wasn't sure. I didn't realize it was the subway. I learned that. And then I got off kind of near my stop, which I was staying at a place called Nap York Central. I do stay at hostels. Anyone who listens to me knows that my preference is hostel. So Nap York Central, which I think is maybe like an Asian-inspired concept of pods, which really are the way to go. The hostel that I stay at in New Orleans, which is High Hostel USA. It's right on Canal Street. It's a fantastic location a few blocks from Bourbon Street. But they also have a really cool pod option for the most part. And it really just provides for full coverage. There's like a sheet that closes you off, and it can get pretty dark and pretty quiet. So anyway, I was staying at Nap York Central, and that was located, I think, on 948th Ave, just a few blocks from Central Park. I got there early enough to drop my bags off. They let me store them. And then I headed out into the city. Right away, I was in it. So this last month in August, I actually went to Alaska, and I will do an episode on that. Going to Alaska, obviously totally different feel from New York City. Pretty quiet, really tapping into Mother Earth on a very different level. I actually took a train to Denali when I went to Alaska. But here I was, this time around, in New York City. Got off the subway, and it was intense. It was actually the same way when I got off the bus. Right downtown somewhere. And the sounds, I had to settle in for a minute. The sounds were coming at you from every direction. Sensory overload. Whether you are a New Yorker, I'm sure coming back to it still takes a few moments of grounding, but it was everywhere. And I had to tell myself, I'm like, this is it. Transition to the sound of the city, the music of the city, the horns, the train, the people, the traffic. It was everywhere, everything all at once. In my perspective, it was wonderful. I could feel how alive the city was almost immediately. And mentioned I hadn't been there in a long time, but I'm a New Yorker, I feel like, and the city is in my blood. Not just upstate New York, which is where I spent most of my time, but I spent a lot of time in Manhattan and parades and all that kind of stuff. So it was really wonderful right away. I was really about 4 or 5 blocks from Times Square, so if anyone's thinking of trying out Nap York, it's a great location. It's in Hell's Kitchen. I felt really safe the whole time. Lights, it's lit up. There's a lot going on. People were pretty much out constantly. If you have your wits about you, I think you really have a good chance of nothing happening. Nothing happened to me on my whole trip. It was really spectacular. And I walked a lot at many different times of day and night. I went right into Times Square that morning and was pretty close to Broadway. Once again, sensory overload. And I went in knowing I was going to do the tourist thing, and that's really what I did. I don't know if calling it the tourist thing is the right idea. Is that what New Yorkers do? Is that what people live there do? I feel like if I were going to move to the city, and I've been contemplating it, as probably everyone does who goes to visit, I feel like I would want to do all the things that I did. Broadway, right there. All kinds of artistic, creative stuff going on. People on the street everywhere also selling stuff, different food trucks and pushcart stuff, and people selling water and selling their wares. I mean, it was a hustle and bustle place. The first thing I really took notice of was the Michael Jackson musical. And I got there early enough that I could go to the first showing. I went in when the ticket office opened, which was about 10:30. I chatted with the gentleman. It happened to be Broadway week. I'm not sure I really got great prices or not. I don't know. They seemed good enough for me. I bought a ticket for the 1 p.m. showing. I asked him for a suggestion of where to go in the meantime while I waited. He suggested a little bakery right up the street that ended up being called Angelina, Italian bakery coffee shop. Very fitting considering I am Angelina. I had an absolutely delicious cannoli and a lemon meringue tart. And then I had a turmeric latte. I felt like I was home. If I lived there, I'm pretty sure I'd have to be working a lot more. But I really settled into the beginning of my adventure very comfortably. Sat there for a while. I don't know if it was before or after, but I knew that one of the things I wanted to do was a bus tour. And everyone's ready to sell their stuff, so it was pretty quickly, either before the bakery or after, that I got hit up by one of the bus guys. Top View is the name of that bus tour, and I will include all of the stuff that I can remember in my show notes. Top View, I bought a tour. It was about a 48-hour period. I think it cost me $100, and it gave me hop on and hop off as much as I wanted in that 48-hour period. It did include a boat option. I'll go into that later. But yeah, so I had all this stuff already on my agenda. Sat down, ate my delicious breakfast of sweet treats, And then I headed off to the musical. It was at the Neil Simon Theater. It was spectacular. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't heard anything about the musical for the most part. Kind of gave an overview of Michael Jackson's life during the Dangerous tour. And it was heartfelt and I'm kind of sad, as we know the life he lived and endured, and from childhood to the adult level that he made it to. The cast and crew were fantastic. I mean, the set changes, and you heard every song you wanted to hear. Please look it up if you're going into the city. It's definitely well worth seeing. I did see the performance with the understudy for Michael, which was fine with me. I'll include his name. I could have all of this stuff, but I've been hemming and hawing about putting out this episode and worrying about making it perfect, and that is not me. I realize I need to continue to take the pressure off of Ange to be anything other than I am. So I'm sitting down here telling you that the cast was great. They had a young Michael, kind of like a mid-age Michael, and then they had, as mentioned, the older Michael, and they were all spectacular. The dance crew, amazing. It really was so inspiring. A bunch of young, I don't want to call them kids. I'm older. Everyone seems kind of like a kid that's younger than me. But they were on point, into the performance, as they should be, but they really filled my soul immediately with that artistic side of New York City that is why people continue to go there. It was soul-filling. I think I might have cried at one point. I'm not sure if it was because of the musical itself or just because of being once again back in the environment of artistic creativity. It was really, really wonderful. So go see it. After that, I went out and just walked around downtown, hit the Times Square area. So much going on. It's hard to remember everything I did. I took it all in. I eventually went back to the hostel, checked in at about 3 o'clock. I want to give big props to the front counter crew at Nap York. They were very helpful, very friendly, answered all the questions that I had at that point. I checked in, I did my stuff, and then I'm pretty sure I went back out on the town. Having not been to the city in a long time, it was interesting to me getting my bearings as I was kind of cruising around and noticing, probably also because of my sobriety and my awareness, that I was able to navigate my way through and actually pay attention to the directions and the geography of the layout. Everything was really pretty close to everything. You know, you had the Upper West Side, then I was staying in Hell's Kitchen, and then there was Times Square. I ended up walking eventually to Greenwich Village. I actually did the bus tour, took it one day all the way down to Battery Park, and walked back. That I'll touch on a little bit later, but as mentioned, the reason that I was there was for the Eric Clapton concert, or so I thought. That was really what brought me, and that was the next day. After a lot of stimulation, a good amount of coffee, I eventually went back to Nap York and went to bed. Slept pretty well. I put a review of them on Expedia, and I gave them pretty good accolades. It was good sleeping. It was pretty quiet. I didn't really have a problem. I was in a 6-bed pod with just other females and pretty comfortable with it overall. Could have used one more bathroom, but it is New York City. The buildings are older. I think they really did the best they could. There was a bathroom in each of the pod sections, and then on the second floor, I think there was 4 floors total, there was one extra bathroom, and then each pod area had its own bathroom, but just a single stall. The next morning I got up pretty early because I had the wonderful pleasure of a friend who lives on Long Beach, Long Island, and he was going to come to see me. Now my friend Rob and I, and this is kind of, you know, the love side, friendship stuff is so important, and connecting and reconnecting. I met Rob 25 years ago in Colorado. He happened to work at the Beaver Creek ticket office, and I just remember meeting him. I don't know that we met formally, but he was a New Yorker, and you couldn't miss it. At some point, eventually, we met through different channels, and then that was kind of it. We never really became friends, but I knew of him. Flashing forward, we meet again through the technology of Zoom, That was in about 2020. And I remember seeing him in this meeting. There his face was, and I said, I know you. I know you, Rob. And it was really fantastic to reconnect in that manner. Flashing forward again, here it is 2025, and we'd never actually seen each other in person since the 90s, but we've stayed in touch really consistently. And he reached out to me when he knew I was coming to the city, and we had talked about my getting in touch with him. And so he decided he was going to take the train in and come and see me. It's not lost on me how wonderful that is and what a gift it is to have that kind of connection and have those kind of people in my life who are willing to come and visit me. He's very familiar with the area, has done an incredible amount of awesome makeup, costume work. He's a person to know if you need that kind of work done. Rob Uller. I'll definitely include him in my show notes. We just walked around for a little while, went and had breakfast at Andrew's Diner, cruised around Penn Station, and just caught up. It was a spectacular way to spend a few hours. And then he headed back home. I just decided to cruise around the area because I was meeting up with some other friends. A dear friend who I've known from Colorado as well, who's also a Long Islander. He and his partner came in. They had booked some reservations at this delicious restaurant called Nick and Steph's in the Madison Square Garden building. So I just waited for them for a little bit. It really brought into focus also where I was for anyone who hasn't been to New York. There's a lot going on. As I mentioned, everything, everywhere, all at once. And I'm grateful for every tool I have in my toolbox. Compassion, empathy, understanding that people have choices, because you saw kind of everything and anything. I saw some really uncomfortable and tragic situations taking place, in my opinion, right along with families traveling and probably taking the trip of their lifetime there in the city. And it can be overwhelming, I think, to witness all of this stuff going on all at once. And I happened to be sitting in Shake Shack while one of those situations was unfolding. For what it's worth, I'm going to include it. As mentioned, I'm in recovery and have been for a little while. I was reminded every day of my journey of how grateful I am to have been provided the grace or given the gift of desperation that keeps me on this path, because I saw some of the obvious effect that the drug use is having on people. I know people talk about the fentanyl. If that's what it was, I'm not really sure, but I saw a couple people wandering around that were on something. And at the same time of being sad about it, I watched this one situation unfold, and one of the security guards, I don't think it was a police officer, it could have been, but stopped and called the ambulance, and people are not just being abandoned and ignored. And I was really grateful just to see that in the midst of it. Once again, everybody has a choice to do what they'd like. So here's my shout out for anyone who's on a journey of recovery and self-discovery. Stay on it. Dig in deep and embrace it. For anyone who's not there yet and happens to be listening and is curious about it, it's well worth doing the thing and not having to take the road that a lot of people seem to be in the midst of taking at this point. But we're all on our own journey. And eventually it was time to meet up with my buddies. And we headed over to Nick and Steph's for a delicious dinner. I actually had a wild Alaskan salmon grilled perfectly. I had a delicious salad. They had yummy bread. Somebody had a New York strip that looked delicioso. I'm going to give a shout out to Nick and Steph's. If you haven't eaten over there, the staff was very nice and very friendly. The menu price is a little bit higher than I might have gone to on my own. So I thank my friends for taking me out to dinner. It was really wonderful and very much enjoyed. And then we headed off to the concert. I had not been to Madison Square Garden yet, so this was a bucket lister of sorts. The venue itself was, not to beat up on it, nothing necessarily spectacular about the setting, but the sound was really great. And when Eric Clapton came on, actually the Wallflowers opened up for him. That's Jacob Dylan, Bob Dylan's son's band. They've been around for a while, and they were very good, and they played all the songs that I wanted to hear, No Headlight being one of them for sure. Bought a couple t-shirts, of course, because I'm a t-shirt junkie. They were really good. And then Eric Clapton came on at about 8:30, and he did not disappoint. His band did not disappoint. They really were spectacular. Well practiced, well seasoned veterans of the music world, well worth every penny that I spent. And just to throw out there, one of the people that I went with actually got a ticket that day, and it was less expensive than the tickets that I bought on the day of the sale. So just for anyone who's thinking of going to a show, if you have the flexibility, you might be able to get a ticket that day. I'm going to look up the set list just to kind of go over it a little bit. He's only playing a few shows. He might actually be done with the tour at this point. He plays the same set, which is fine because I'm not going to see, probably not going to go see any other shows, at least for this tour. So he does an electric set and then goes into an acoustic set and then another electric set. I heard White Room, I'm Your Hoochie Coochie Man, Sunshine of Your Love, so he's playing Cream in there as well. Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out. Layla, of course, Can't Find My Way Home. And I have to admit I was really bummed because that night Steve Winwood was playing in New Jersey. I couldn't believe they were playing in the same proximity kind of on the same night and not playing together. But whatever, I don't really know what the reasons were behind that. Tears in Heaven. And then one of my favorites, Old Love, came into the third set, which was the electric set. And then he closed out with the classic Cocaine. It was everything you'd want to hear. I've heard a lot of rumors about him not being well, being in a wheelchair, and it was nothing like that. He played like a rock star, the rock star that he is. So, Eric Clapton, if you're listening, thanks for the show. Thanks for your music and as well as your band. I thank everybody. It was fantastic. Then back to Nap York for night number 2 in my cozy pod, and it did not disappoint either. I slept well, got up for day 3 in the city. That was Saturday. And along my way at some point, I had passed a sign in the theater district area, for Waiting for Godot, with headlining Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter. Yes, the classic Bill and Ted. And I thought, it was just a short run, playing maybe from early September into January. Well, who doesn't want to go see Keanu in something? I didn't know what to expect. It is a play. It's a Samuel Beckett play. And I didn't know anything about it. I don't think I even Googled what it was about until the day of. So I had purchased my ticket for the 2 o'clock showing. And this was playing at the Hudson Theater. So on Saturday, the bus tour, they did a bus tour of Uptown and Downtown. I don't think I ever did the Uptown tour, but I did the Downtown. And then it also included a night tour, which was very cool. You got some earplugs. It gave a ton of information about the city. Went through Chinatown and it went through Little Italy, Greenwich Village. It was about 2 hours, I think, maybe round trip if you didn't get off, which I didn't. I just stayed on and did the whole thing. You could get off, and they had a bunch of different stop areas where they could then pick you up again. So I feel like it was worth it for anyone who's thinking about it. It's a good way to see the city. And then eventually I headed over to Hudson. The play was wonderful. There's only 5 people in it. It was kind of a satire. Google Samuel Beckett and Google Waiting for Godot, and you'll get a better understanding of what the play is about. Great performance. I'm not sure that I've seen Keanu do anything on Broadway, if he's done any play stuff before, but I'll give him a lot of credit. It was quite a change from any of the John Wicks or Matrix movies, so kudos to him for getting out of what I imagine was his comfort zone a bit and doing something different, and I appreciated his performance. I do want to give a huge shout out, though, to Alex Winter. He was pretty spectacular. There's a lot of dialogue going on, and he really melted into the part, as did the other characters that were in it. Everyone really put on a great performance. I thank them for that. I had not seen a play in a while. After all the performances, there's usually a stage door. Some of them I think are more obvious than others. And the Michael Jackson musical, the stage door is like right out. It's on the same side of the theater, right next to the entryway. So we were able to get people to sign our playbill, which was very cool. Well, I didn't know, but the stage door for Hudson Theater, for anyone else who might be going to see Waiting for Godot, is on the other street behind 45th Street, on the other side of the building. So we waited out there after the 2 p.m. performance. Little did we know that they had already come and gone. Well, when somebody finally told us that the stage door is on the other side, we went over there. That's what we were told. They had already come and gone. So what I did after the play, being me and jumping into all that New York City has to offer and doing all the things I'd never done, I decided I was going to go to Radio City Music Hall. I looked to see what else was playing. I had not been to Radio City. My friend Michael had suggested the play that Hugh Jackman was doing. I'm sorry, it's not a play, it's a musical, or kind of like a sing and dance entertainment. It was great. It's called From New York with Love. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go see Hugh Jackman. It was fantastic, as was Radio City. I look forward to seeing a concert there at some point. It was beautiful. All the theaters are so beautiful. The whole performance was very family friendly and funny, and he sang a bunch, and actually Pink came out and sang a song with her daughter, Willow Hart, who I think goes to school in the city. She got her kid up on stage for her first Radio City performance. It was very heartwarming. The performance was really fantastic. I didn't really know Hugh Jackman as a singer before, but he was very entertaining. He was fun. I enjoyed it. What I did already have planned was that after this performance, I was going to run over to 45th and go try and catch Keanu and Alex to get my playbill signed, because the Waiting for Godot was going to be ending. So that's what I did. After New York with Love ended, I ran over to 45th and waited with everyone else who was kind of waiting there. And there actually weren't as many people as you might think. So I was on the rail, one would say, waiting with a few other people. Thank goodness they did come out. Keanu came out first, and had a baseball hat and just looked like the normal guy that he is. I think everyone has said he's so kind and friendly, and he passed me and was signing some other stuff. And then when he got up to me, he did actually say, "Are you okay? You look like you're getting squished." And I responded, "I am okay." I asked him about his band, and I had my tiny little celebrity conversation. It's true. He is kind. He cared whether or not I was getting squished, and I thank you for your concern, Keanu. For anyone also wondering, somebody said to him, "Congratulations on getting married." And he said, "I'm not married." There's a little bit of insider info as far as whatever the news might be saying or what we might be hearing about what's going on. According to him, he says he's not married. Anyway, it was really cool. Alex Winter came out. He also signed the playbill. He was quite a bit more serious, I think, than Keanu. I decided to go out for dinner after. I went to this delicious little ramen place that was in Hell's Kitchen. It was a tiny little building. It was packed. And I thought, well, this must be the place to be. And so I sat down. Well, I actually stood outside for a little while and waited for my number to get called so that I could sit down. And then I sat down and had a delicious meal. I had some bone broth ramen. It was delicious. I also had some shrimp dumplings that were delicious. As I said, it did not disappoint by any means. The price was pretty fair. There was no complaining because I was sitting there by myself. It was nothing fancified. We all kind of sat at long tables, and it was wonderful to just be able to sit down and have a really authentic, delicious meal. And I will include them in my show notes. I'm sorry that I can't remember the name of the place, but the service was great. The price was great. My belly was full. And I then walked a few blocks back to Nap York for another night of sleep. And then came Sunday. Now, initially, my trip was only supposed to be Thursday through Sunday, but I had decided that I was going to stay another day. There just wasn't enough time. So Sunday, I once again got on the bus and did the tour. It had a boat option that I wanted to do, and you had to go down to Battery Park, or Pier 49, I think it was. I did some other stuff during the day. I am a meeting person. I made a few different meetings while I was there also, which was really wonderful for anyone who is in recovery. Plenty of meetings in the city. And a friend of mine once told me, thank goodness Angie didn't take a break from meetings, a vacation. So when I go on vacation, I love it. I love to go to meetings in other places. It's immediate connection. It's a way to check in, definitely get grounded, be reminded of what it is I want to keep maintaining and what's really allowing me to do this and live this fantastic life that I'm living. Sunday, I went to a meeting at some point. Eventually in the afternoon, I feel like I got on the bus at like 3 o'clock. Somebody had said that the boat tour really wasn't great. Sorry, Top View. I'm not really sure what to think. There was no top level seating on the boat, and I didn't really want to be squished in the middle of the boat. So I decided to not do the tour. And instead, after finding a bathroom and plugging in my phone for a little bit to charge up, I headed into Greenwich Village, where I also found another meeting and connected with some people, got in my hour of power, and then lo and behold, it was the last night of the San Gennaro Festival in Little Italy. I mean, the higher power and the forces are looking out for me. I needed to fill my soul with some Italian food and really tap into my Sicilian roots. I walked over. I used my GPS on my phone a lot. Everyone's looking at their phone, so I didn't feel out of place about, like, what is that person doing on her phone? It felt very comfortable. I found the festival. It had a Ferris wheel and all. Lights twinkling. The streets were lit up. There were so many people. I mean, somebody was singing when I got down there. I recorded some stuff, singing in Italian, and it was wonderful. And I decided to have a meal at this place called Amici. So I sat down. They had a little spot on the street. All the streets were closed off. I had a delicious caprese salad. It had roasted red peppers on it, which I'm not really used to. It was delicious. And then I had pasta carbonara. Oh my goodness. And I ate almost all of it because I couldn't take anything home. It was delicious. The service was great. There are so many languages that you're hearing everywhere, which is really wonderful. But, Italian was everywhere, which reminded me I need to tap into my Italian lessons, which I've been ignoring. After that, I walked around. I got a couple cannolis. What a way to finish up my last night in the city with a festival of feasts. And from that, I decided to walk back. It was quite a ways. I think it was about an hour and a half of a walk, but it took me back into Times Square. The walk on its own, a little later than I had been walking around. Some streets were a little emptier. I don't think I was in danger anywhere. Everything was very lit up, but I did pass a kid at one point who asked me if I had a buck. And I said, I don't have any money, but I have a cannoli. He said, "What's that?" And I said, "It's a delicious dessert." And I gave him my cannoli, and I hope he ate it and enjoyed it. Got to Times Square. I needed to buy a suitcase because an extra bag, part of my extra stay was all about doing some thrifting. And I wanted to make it a bit of a business trip. So I eventually stopped at a place. It was midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So maybe it took me 2 hours to walk back. But one of those I Love New York gift shops right in the middle of Times Square, it was closing. And I looked at the door and they said, "You want to come in?" And I feel like I got my own private shopping. Every sale at the last second. And I bought a backpack and they were great. And I bought a couple t-shirts and I'm grateful for them. That being said, it's like everywhere in New York. I did have a pushcart hot dog. It was delicious. I think the only thing I didn't have a pretzel. People were selling fruit everywhere. I had delicious fruit. I kind of tried to do it all. The business was booming and people were very friendly. Nobody was pushy. I didn't really find any rude people. I'm grateful. So bought the backpack, my t-shirts, and went back for night number 4 after a great day of Italian food and music. So that did include my music piece of the life, love, music, and space travel. I did get to hear some singing in Italian, which was wonderful. And then came Monday. It was my last day. I was leaving the same time I was originally scheduled to leave, which was I had a 6 o'clock flight, 6:30 flight. I got up early in the morning and I, for the first time, went in the other direction. I went uptown. It was a whole different scene, quieter, but still plenty of people. I walked past Juilliard and Lincoln Center. It was kind of the arts, school and artsy area. It was lovely. It was very peaceful. It ended up there was a farmer's market on one side of the street and there was a vintage market on the other side of the street. Both things that I love. I went to the vintage market. I cruised around. I ended up getting a couple of records and I went to the Strand bookstore, if I'm not mistaken, bought some books. Also, the night walking back from Little Italy, So that was Sunday night. There was a bookstore open, used books on the street, and I bought some books there. I mean, I love that kind of stuff. The city that never sleeps. There was something to do all the time. A business was open somewhere. If you didn't want to go to sleep, you didn't have to. If you didn't want to be alone, you didn't have to. If you wanted to be alone, you could be alone in the midst of all the people just the same. Anyway, back to Monday. I did the shopping. There were people on the street selling their wares and vintage items, and I bought some vintage magazines, and I had gone into Central Park actually also before that, went into Central Park Monday morning. I apologize. I might even have my days off, but I think I may have done that on Sunday. And then actually on Monday morning, I went into Central Park and spent a few hours just hanging out, had some fruit on the bench, talked to a friend of mine, cruised around a little bit. And then eventually I got my stuff and headed back to the airport. And I did the same thing. I got on the train or the subway, and then I got on the bus and made it back to LaGuardia. Checked in, did all the stuff. Easy peasy, smooth. I feel like this has been just as fast as my whirlwind trip, my talking, but I'm going to make no excuses for it because I'm a New Yorker still at heart, and I talk like one, fast and furious. It was a wonderful trip filled with moments of feeling independent and empowered, being able to navigate my way around. I had a few friends that I talked to who had mentioned, they're like, I've never been to the city. I feel like I'd be afraid. And there's a lot going on, but you have your wits about you. Doesn't mean that something can't happen then. I'm just so grateful to not be all that afraid to go out and do the things, because New York is a place not to be missed. There is a lot of stuff that people might not want to see or that they might want to ignore, but that stuff is happening in the world. That's the real deal. I saw homeless moms with their kids. Broke my heart. Made me mad. Isn't there another place you could be homeless than in the city? I had all kinds of things go through my head. And then I don't know other people's stories. I saw plenty of opportunities for wellness. There is that opportunity there. It's not like people are just ignoring and are just not caring. There's people hustling and working and looking to make their dreams come true. As I mentioned, I'm grateful to be open-minded and understand that there's so much to do on this planet, and life is short. So as I close out, that's the thing I want to really remind everyone of. Life is short. It is going to be over. We're just spinning around on a pile of dirt in the middle of the universe. Thank you, Michael Singer, for your consistent message of reminding me of how little I am in relation to what's really going on around me. I don't want to miss the opportunity to take advantage of this stuff. There's been some terrible things that have just taken place here in Carolina in the last 24 hours. Mass shooting at a pretty small place here. We're not devoid of tragedy, and there's stuff happening everywhere. I don't know when it's going to come up for me. I'm not really sure, but I don't want to have missed out. I don't know that I'll be ready to go when the time comes, but I want to be doing as much as I can to be ready. And so here I am, back in Carolina, thinking to myself, when am I going to move to New York? I'm not sure I'm ever going to move to New York, but what I do know is that I could. I could go. It's possible. And it's just another place that I am inviting in the opportunity or the possibility. I don't know what's going to happen. In the meantime, I'm going to be where my feet are. It feels very good to be home, and I'm very grateful for my family who watched my marshmallow while I was gone. I'm very grateful for this opportunity that I am in the midst of, and very grateful most of all that I've been plugged into healing and moving forward from past experiences so that I can be in the present. This is where I am today. This is where my life is in today, and I don't want to be holding on to what I wish I had or what I used to have or what could have been. Instead, I want to be able to be where I am. And that takes work. That takes work, and that takes dealing with grief. So plug in, do the thing, stay inspired, take the trip. Go to New York, eat some pizza and some cheesecake. Yes, I did that. I had plenty of cheesecake at Junior's, in the airport, and in New York City. I had a few different pieces of pizza. Delicious. I did it all. I did the New York thing, and I don't regret one bit of that trip. Over and out. Bye.
So we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks so very much for listening. It's now time to reconnect to planet Earth and all that comes with living on the blue ball. I'd love to hear your ideas for future episode topics, along with any and all positive and/or constructive feedback. Please feel free to contact me at ashysbadass@gmail.com. Thanks again for spending some time with me and allowing me to share myself with you. Until next time, please be gentle with yourselves, be kind to animals, and do all you can to allow your authentic selves to shine brightly.